That was one of them.
Yeah, we're going to, did we hear from him or? Okay, I'll go ahead. Hi, everybody. I'm going to call this special committee of the whole meeting to order. I'm Ed McPherson, the deputy mayor. I'll be chairing the meeting. Can I have someone move the adoption of the agenda and amendments? And that's going to be moved by Councillor Barry Smith. If you have it in front of you, Barry. Now, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Okay, Councillor Bird, could you move it if you see it on the big screen above me? Okay, Councillor Waterfield? I'm going to start going to the audience next. That's fine.
That the agenda for the special committee of the whole meeting of November the 26th, 2024 be adopted as presented.
Any discussion? All in favor? Barry, can you hear us? Okay, he's nodding. That's great. If you have any disclosures opportunity just now or anytime through the meeting, just let us know. We have no delegations. And number 5, staff reports. Town of Perth official plan review and update the draft red line revisions of updated official plan. Director Rouse. And Forbes, I guess you're both coming up together. Shock you both. You both can come up and do whatever you want to do.
My apologies. I was expecting Forbes to just take it for me, so.
That's fine, whatever works for you guys.
Yeah, so I guess, as you know, I've been going through, the official plan and Forbes has, come up with a red line draft version of the plan for, you guys to have a look at and make comments on, and then the agenda sort of outlines the next steps in the procedure, but I will pass this over to Forbes.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you again, Deputy Mayor, and you and Council. This product that you have before you right now is what I call a discussion draft. It's intended to address all of the issues that were identified in the issues and options report at the conclusion of phase 1 of this project. This represents the major deliverable for phase 2, which is an actual document showing recommended changes to the current official plan based on my review and the direction I received from you through the issues and options report. The idea at this point in time is to get Council's general acceptance of this document, that it's sufficient, perhaps 80% complete, but it's sufficient now to go out and present to the public, present to the government agencies, and get their comments. During that point in time, during the public and agency consultation, I also like to welcome individual councillors to give me comments or suggestions that they would like to see. And I treat those very much like a public or agency comment. And when we get to the end of this consultation, I'll bring together all of the comments with suggestions on how to address the comments and a recommendation to change this discussion draft so that it becomes a document then that is presented at council for adoption. And council recalls that you do not have the final approval of this document, but once it's adopted, it then goes to Lanark County for final approval, and they can work with council and make changes and suggestions that they see fit. They will also be an agency that's consulted, so they'll get more than one kick at this can. But the idea is that this is not a finished document, but it's to the point where I believe we can start getting others looking at it as opposed to one planner. You should also be aware that I did circulate this document to staff earlier this fall. It was reviewed and I got a number of comments from staff on deal breaker issues or things they just weren't comfortable with, as well as some suggested additional improvements. So I'm happy at this point in time, Chair, to go through the document if there are concerns with it, and answer any questions that council has. But again, stressing it's a discussion draft. You'll see on the cover of the document, it says red line revision update for review by council. Once council is generally accepted of this, it will be changed to public discussion draft as opposed to for review to council. Version control can get a little complicated, and so I intentionally put different titles and dates on things that represent milestones in the process. So we can, or I can keep track of what's what.
Councillor McCrory.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I'd like to begin with Forbes, if you could just review with council the deadlines in terms of the process, because you talk about it being 80% complete. There will be an opportunity for collaboration and consultation with agencies, also with the public, and then it goes to county. So do we have a timeline in terms of these specific divisions that we're talking about in terms of process?
Thank you very much. That's a great question. Joanne and I have spoken about timelines from this point forward. What we would like is an open house, public meetings, probably mid to late January. We would post the document as publicly available once it gets out of chambers here. So the public would have ultimately 30+ days to look at it before we got to an open house and public meeting. We would circulate to agencies immediately. And the idea would be that I would come back in February with a report on recommended changes to the discussion draft.
When does it have to, sorry, if I may ask an additional, when does it have to go to county council for their blessing?
There's no deadline on when it has to go to county council. It would go to county council after adoption, which I'm thinking we have a report on recommended changes in February. You deliberate and discuss that potentially in March, with adoption in April. That would be, I think, a realistic timeline at this point in time. And so that gives us collectively another 5 months to discuss and debate, both as a council and as the community, before the gavel comes down on the final adoption. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I just have one other, and that is in terms of agency, will the council have be given a list of the agencies that are going to be contacted in regards to the official plan? And I say that because when you look at this official plan, we all look at it from a different lens. And I'll just give you an example. I just had a meeting yesterday with Algonquin College. I was asked to go to a meeting. And one of the things that they're reeling, as you know, if you've read in the paper, they're having layoffs in staff. And one of the things that they really feel strongly about within our community is increasing their footprint. So I'm hoping that that's, for example, Algonquin College will have, because they have an impact on, the official plan has an impact on everyone even in the surrounding communities. So I would be interested in knowing the agencies that are going to be contacted, in fact, we don't miss anyone. And sometimes, in the shuffle and we get so busy, we can miss important partnerships or opportunities for partnerships moving forward. That's all.
So on that matter, Chair, the agencies that typically get engaged in this type of project would consist of the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. They'll do a complete review of it. We've had very good comments from MTO in terms of their policies, which are quite consistent. As when you start working from community to community, the MTO comments become very consistent. Those are the two that we would typically expect to get feedback from, but we also circulate to all municipalities within a kilometer of us. So that would be Drummond and Tay Valley. We would circulate to the county. We would circulate to the 4 school boards. We would circulate to Enbridge. We would circulate to Hydro One, Bell Canada. Those are the primary ones, but I would be more than happy when I present my report on consultation to provide that list. I think, Councillor, one of the roles that you can play going forward is making sure that you're letting people know that this is out there and this is happening. It'll be posted on the website. We will have a notice in our community paper as it exists now. But the word of mouth and you as individuals making sure that you're letting people know that this is the time to comment, I think builds on your role and helps the community get engaged where they may not otherwise have received notice or looked for the notice.
Thank you.
Madam Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 questions. This has been a long process and we went through a public consultation, whatever. I'm wondering, and we got good response. I'm just wondering if those tapes are available of what happened in that. Looking for information and comments from the public.
Yeah, so this is arguably the second attempt to update the official
Right.
plan. The first one got delayed due to staff changes and COVID. And so I've worked with your staff to gather all of those comments and suggestions. And they've been cataloged and acknowledged. I think they were highlighted in the issues and options report where it was of value. And so we have made every effort, Mayor, to not lose what we got through the first sort of efforts to update the official plan. And I think an example of that is the section related to First Nations and Indigenous consultation. That was certainly a highlight in the first round. The town had retained the services of our local elder to assist with this. I've worked with Chief Lalonde on this project, as well as the Tay Valley Township official plan that's just recently got adoption or approval from Lanark County. And you'll see that there are some similarities in the wording that we've introduced for you in your official plan and the Tay Valley official plan, understanding that you both use the same consultant, right? And I've worked, I've met with Chief Lalonde 3 times now on this file, and we're both he and I think, are quite pleased with the way it looks now and the way it highlights the fact that the world did not start in 1820. That there was an existence of this land before that, and it was occupied, and having that oral history recognized in a public document, I think is very important.
Okay, my second question is, Joanna and I had this discussion at the time that Mr. Green wanted to open the fruit and vegetable stand at the corner of Gore and South Street, and the difficulty he ran into was that from the planning aspect, it was treated as if it was a residential lot, and it isn't. So we talked about emphasizing that not so much now, but in the past, has been a serious area for the surrounding agricultural community, and recognizing that in the official plan. So I just wondered if that was there.
I believe that we've captured the ability of a document like this to support local agriculture and urban agricultural options. We received extensive comments from the table that were really focused on that. And I would suggest to you that efforts have been made, but I think there's always the ability to improve upon that. And I would like to get comments on what we've done in terms of supportive of agriculture, Mayor, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that, again, I've suggested some wording. Can it be improved upon? Can we enhance things? Of course, and let's find the opportunities to do that.
Any other questions to members of council? Councilor McCray.
Yes, you talked about deal breaker issues. Would you like to comment on that?
So this document goes to the public. My hope is that there's nothing in this document that offends council, that it's contrary to council's beliefs and positions and policies. I'm relatively experienced in working with councils and making sure that things are acceptable, and I've used those skills here. It's gone through a bit of a staff filter, but I think that it's really important to the process and the project that you're generally comfortable. But there's always room for wordsmithing. There's always room for improvement, and that's sort of where we're at now. But as a starting point, is this document generally acceptable to go out to the public? That's the question. And I use the phrase deal breakers. Are there deal breakers in this that there's no way council would ever support that direction?
And just my last question in regards to Douro Farms. Is that piece of property considered under parks or trails, or because it's kind of, it really hasn't been established. You know, it's kind of, it's just out there, let's just say, you know what I mean? And we all have notions in our minds what that might look like or could look like. In terms of the official plan, what about Douro Farm?
So the document that you have before you has been updated with the recommendations and direction in the Recreation Master Plan that Perth and surrounding municipalities partnered on and executed. Part of that is recognizing Douro Farm as a open space parkland. I think from a land use planning standpoint, that's appropriate because the land not as just trails and emerging open space, but it does function as an environmental buffer on your landfill and encouraging sensitive land uses like apartments or residential development would be a challenge on that property. That's not to say that day would never come. That's not to say that there may not be another passive type of long-term use of the property either. But I think right now, open space and parkland is the most appropriate designation. There is no sewer and water out to the site. It would be an extensive effort to extend municipal infrastructure out there to facilitate any sort of development. And then the other fact is that you do have a nearby class 3 industry as well as a whole series of class 1 industry in behind in the business park. So it really lends itself to an open space park designation. That's not to say it can't be changed in the future.
Is it mentioned in the official?
Yes, it is numerous times now recognized under the Parks and Recreation.
I might have missed that, but thank you.
How do we, maybe I could find that.
I was just looking under the designations of different parks, you know, according to size. And somehow maybe I missed that. Anyway, I think you've explained it.
Yep,
Pretty-
I think I just did a quick word search.
Yep.
Counselor, page 115 in the document, it says Drew Farm is recognizing this plan as an informal recreation property.
I missed that. I apologize.
Containing an off-leash dog park and walking trails.
Okay, so that's where we're at this.
That's sort of the state of where we are right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion from Councillor Waterfield.
As recommended by the committee of the whole, be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth, one, accept the draft red line revision of the updated official plan as presented. Two, direct staff to advertise a public open house and public meeting in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. And three, direct staff to circulate the draft red line official plan to prescribe agencies to provide them an opportunity to comment on the draft prior to adoption by council as presented in report 2024 COW 17.1.
Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you.
Council, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's much appreciated and I look forward to the next stage of this. We'll get it done in the spring, right? Thank you. Have
Okay.
a great night.
Our next meeting dates are special committee of the whole meeting December 3rd at 4 p.m. Councillor Dave Bird will chair. The regular committee of the whole meeting on Tuesday, December 3rd at 5:30 p.m. Councillor Isabel McCray will chair. And any questions from the media? None? Motion for adjournment as it comes from Councillor Bolt.
Myself, the special committee of the whole meeting held on November 26, 2024, adjourned at 4:27 p.m.
All in favor? We're adjourned.
We're waiting the meeting start, so we'll go 30 seconds earlier. I'm Judy Brown, Mayor, and chairing this meeting, being a council meeting. So Councillor Byrd, you have the motion to accept the agenda.
Someone else will actually do that for me. I'd be grateful.
Would you like to read it?
David's asking someone else can because he's lost.
His voice is.
Okay. Councillor McCray.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Barry Smith. Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth adopt the agenda for the November 26, 2024 council meeting as presented.
Thank you. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Okay. So I'll read the land acknowledgement. We respectfully announce that the land on which we gather is the traditional home of various Indigenous peoples. As we work towards reconciliation, may we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, anyone? No. Adoption of minutes of October 22nd. Councillor Bolt.
Yes, your worship, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gary Waterfield. Be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth adopt the minutes of the October 22nd, 2024 regular council meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor? That's carried. There are no delegations tonight and no presentations. Next is the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any item from the consent agenda to be discussed separately? Councillor Waterfield.
Madam Mayor, I would like 8.2.1 to be withdrawn from consent agenda.
8.2.1.
Correct.
All righty. Thank you. And so we'll consider items removed from the consent agenda. Would you like to elaborate, sir?
Thank you for the opportunity to address this. Mr. Siegel from Siegel Construction at the last COW meeting came to council and he spoke in generalities in terms of wanting to help with the town in terms of municipal housing initiative, affordable housing and so forth. And my response to him at the time was, your intent sounds great, but you need to meet with developmental services to discuss specifics and details to see if there's any practical actionable items. So I'm just going to call upon Joanna just to ask her if in fact he's done that or if there's been any discussion of any sort as a follow-up to his query.
Thank you. Yes, prior to the meeting, he had met with the CIO and myself and the clerk and just talked sort of generally about some of his ideas and then presented to council. He did follow up with an email and we followed up asking for additional information. So currently the ball is in his court.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. So we need a motion to pass the consent agenda. Someone. There.
So after by councilors, there's a motion the following bylaws and motions listed below the consent agenda be passed and numbered accordingly.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please?
There already was. You already had one.
Okay.
I'm the seconder.
So, are those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. So moving on to staff reports. The first one is about a new fire truck. Could you read that motion, please? Councillor McCray.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth, A, approve the purchase of a stock fire truck from Dependable Emergency Vehicles for a price not to exceed $954,125 plus HST through Canoe Contract RFP 113021, and Number 2, direct staff to bring forth a bylaw to complete an agreement with Dependable Emergency Vehicles for the supply and delivery of a stock fire truck as presented in report 2024 Council -10-1.
Thank you. Trevor, could you, I at least have a question. So not so much a question, but, could you explain to council, like what the life is of a fire truck and what the regulation is about how many kilometers you can have on it and why this is necessary?
Sure. The fire trucks are a little different. It's in the asset management plan. They are governed by fire survey, which actually looks at NFPA standards and has different life durations depending on the size of the municipality. So we is 10 years if you're large urban, we're not that. So we're 15 years. And what happens is if they're leading, they'll do place a reserve pumper. The reserve and the lead up, so we're always changing in a good staggered order. Reserve pumper is probably our size, 20 is sort of the recommended shelf life. If you can test, you can do 25. So we mechanic does a good job of taking care of our apparatus, and we can usually get like 25 years. So that's what we can do to replace this 24 years old, just about to be somewhere between 5. And that's where our pumpers.
We basically have no choice except to do this because the other one is 21.
We can keep it. What happens is our survey does look at what apparatus we have, and it could, if we haven't replaced it, they could affect our rating. What happens if our rating changes, and if we go from say a 6 to a 7 or a 6 to a 5, it goes to the impact square. So local insurance and the insurance rate will change. You can definitely look at putting it off. Probably put it off. I'm just going to talk to you later.
Thank you. Councilor Bolt.
Yes, through the chair, and I know you and I had a short discussion in the break, but the one question I did wanted to ask you, Trevor, is you refer to this as a stock truck. Can you explain to me, first of all, what do you mean? Is that just a saying, or is this, what does stock truck mean?
Yeah, through the chair. So historically, a fire department would make a completely custom truck. So we would look at everything from the wheels to the cab, the chat, everything. We would say what went where, and we put it in LP, and it would go to engineering. So okay, and then they come back and we'll build the truck, and it would say custom built for the fire department. At the end of the day, I'd like to have everything talked along and have a say in where everything goes, but something that they storage equipment can water. So happening industry is you're seeing stock purchases or stock units, which is completely custom because of the time it takes to make a custom unit and all the engineering goes into this and that. The customer is 2 to 3 years and it's getting quite pricey. So that manufacturers are coming in with a bunch of generic models that they'll say, okay, we can customize a bit of the back, but you're getting this chassis, you're getting this, et cetera, this pump.
So that makes a lot of sense. So my supplementary question, if I may, still dealing with stock trucks then, is this a Cadillac stock truck or is this a VW Beetle stock truck? Is there an in-between stock truck that would cost us less? Is that a reasonable question?
Yeah, so there was a couple of stocks that were available. Okay, brand that cost less. It was about 750,000. Had nothing on it. By the time we looked at putting appropriate valves and appropriate boxes and fitting everything, we were up over $1 million very quick.
Okay.
We had a wrap versus a paint job, and the one that we're hoping for is actually a top mount unit. That was much safer working on the top of the truck versus off the side. I was talking, it was on the side.
Right.
So by the time we compared apples to apples, this was the one that sort of met the criteria we were looking for. And wasn't in the, part of what we're looking at. Part of it was to the contract, I think, for 14 new trucks. Could we slip in there and get a 15th truck? We could probably use their spec and doing that was in manufacturing it. However, their stock unit or the custom unit they built was 1.4 million. And a side mount. So,
Okay. I've got one last question and then I'll stand down. My
Supplementary.
question, your worship, is more for the financing and how we're going to pay for this. So this is a Brian Burns question. So my question specifically, Brian, is, and I think you probably have already touched on this, but is this part of the request for borrowing that you're going to be borrowing the money for this, and it's not going to affect directly affect the tax increase?
Chair, yes, essentially over the 5-year time frame. This was already budgeted in 2026, so it's just moving it forward 1 year. It doesn't change the overall borrowing profile of the organization.
Thank you.
Councillor Bird. Oh, okay. Miss Barry, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the microphone, when Trevor was speaking, is very, very difficult to understand what he's saying. Now, if Brian was just using the same mic, it was much better with Brian, so maybe there's not a problem with the mic. And when Forbes spoke earlier, it was very clear, so I don't know which mic he was using, but for the benefit of the townsfolk who may be tuned in listening to this, we should have some way of making sure the microphones are serviced and very clear. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think it's overall. Now,
Now, I couldn't understand anything you just said.
that's interesting.
they're using the same mic.
That's strange.
Don't we have in the budget sometime soon to overhaul the sound system?
Barry's got selective hearing.
I just turned up the input on that one earlier.
So,
It's a voice projection issue, Madam Mayor.
Have to learn to project better, or Trevor. I believe Councillor Bill
Thank you.
Bird.
This is for Trevor. Just for my education and general interest moving forward in the future with purchases, is the supply, the number of manufacturers of these vehicles dwindling the way they are in so many areas? You get less and less options.
that would be 100% correct. We're finding that's manufacturers overall.
Any other questions? Then those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. Okay, moving on to 12.2. And Brian, you can stay there. You were going to anyway. Okay, so Councillor Bird, could you read the motion, please?
Yeah, give it a shot. Moved by myself and seconded by the deputy mayor. Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth passed bylaw number 5185 to 1, authorize the borrowing from the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $688,000 towards the cost of 16 Conlon Drive, and 2, here it's going, authorize the mayor, clerk and treasurer to execute all necessary documents as presented in report 2024-council-10.2.
Thank you. Are there questions? Councillor Waterfield.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I learned a long time ago there's no such thing as a stupid question. So as I was preparing for this meeting, the quizzical thought occurred to me. With regards to this possible loan for Conlon Drive, could we not use projected funds from the sale of the White House to negate borrowing for Conlon Drive? We've got this chunk of money coming in for the White House, and it may not be exactly the same, but it's within the area. So couldn't we negate that in terms of boring for Holland Drive?
Potentially could have been directed that way. So, second is basically taking for taking this one, and that was definitely. I recall this was actually in the process for a better part of 5 months as we've gone through the documentation. Kudos to the clerk for through the entire process. So this is actually the final documentation in a 5-month process.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? That being the case, those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, next item is item number 13, which is Council Committee Local Board and External Board reports and minutes. Usually I go first and I'll talk about County Council and the hospital. I've been off on leave for a while, so I have very little to report in that regard. The Deputy Mayor will probably speak about County Council. And I had a hospital board meeting this morning. And as usual, the hospital is underfunded, and discussion of some possible ways to alleviate that. So I just wanted to make a statement about the budget for 2025. It's full of challenges, more than I think we've ever faced before. Some of the challenges which have resulted in the budget going up is that the cost of the OPP is up 25%. Our infrastructure was built mainly in the 60s, and streets and sewers need to be replaced. As an example, doing the work on Craig Street, the preliminary estimate is $4 million, and replacing the works garage is $3 to $4 million. Post-COVID, as you'll know from your household budgets, the cost of everything has increased greatly. I asked someone who was doing some repairs how much it would cost for a sheet of plywood, and it was $60. It used to be less than 20. And you know from the cost of your groceries that costs are escalating. So I checked with Ramsey, the executive officer of the table, the food bank, about how much usage of the food bank had increased this year as opposed to last. That's 15%. People are hurting. Our preliminary tax increase, as you've probably seen in the media, is 10%. Items like garage and the works garage and other large tech items, we have to borrow money. But council has a sort of dilemma of continuing to provide services, yet having things like streets and sewers to be repaired. But 10% increase is just not feasible. And I for one will not be supporting that. So there's a meeting after this to analyze some aspects of town operations to try and cut things. And there'll be a meeting on December the 3rd, again to try and cut things out of the budget. So this is just an overview of the challenges we as a council face. So moving on, Deputy Mayor, did you wish to talk about County Council?
Sure, last week's county council meeting was pretty short, nothing of major importance, but we did have our representative John Jordan attend, and he went over the list of things that the government of Ontario has achieved in this past year and some of the work that they want to achieve. So there's 18 of us in the room, and each one of us turned to John Jordan and said, "You need to help us with the OPP costing." And we realized the costing is not out of line with the increases that most people are getting in our bills. It's just that it's us all in one year. So it's why it's such a hit for us this year, but it's not on Roma. It's just this is the way it is. But for all of us that are struggling with normal issues to wait to the municipalities, having an extra 4% added on to the normal tax base is part of it. Mr. Jones said that it's probably the one thing we talked about in Central, because other municipalities complaining about it. We have local services. Looking at any other comments, what was being done, and so it certainly is on the radar of the intergovernment to working on this stuff they can do. What we were just talking today on the anything. I saw a news clip on the weekend saying the government's offering to assist some municipalities if they're having troubles with pollution costs, but it didn't get into the weeds about what roads, so there's been no formal statements yet, so we'll wait and see about that one. And last Friday, county council did the budget for the county. It was a 3-hour process. We finished up in the 3-hour time limit we sort of gave ourselves. It's about $180 million budget compared to both. Kind of different budget because it's obviously different things. Social services is a huge part. Four road systems are roads. It's not sewer and water like ours. But in the budget process, the CEO doesn't have a head of idea what they accomplished and what taxes mean and what the tax increases to you. Sort of what they do here tells you what each house would pay for that. And the individual directors had to do their own presentations. And the individual directors would stay there and answer all the questions for their departments instead of having the treasurers. The treasurer goes on also, but every department had to do their own presentation. They talked about the good and the bad that they went through this year and the challenges that they're facing next year. So it's primarily going to work from a different level because it's lots of things that say they do, they don't do. I've said to our CEOs, something I'd like to sort of see maybe more along here, to actually hear from the directors about the challenges they were feeling like they're facing and stuff. They're talking about efficiencies and stuff, and you know, we're talking about efficiencies, but let's be honest, there isn't a lot of room for efficiencies in most organizations now, and there's not a lot of room for service cuts and service levels when you really think about the jobs that every department does, whether it's small town or county. In the basic level of services, and I don't think we're going to find. If you said let's cut service levels in Perth, I really don't know where you're going to find service levels to cut. We're pretty lean as it is. Anyway, it was I think a well done presentation. Tons of questions from the counselors. It's different from here. A lot more questions come out of the first meeting. Probably let's circle more items. We brought back to the next budget meeting than I've seen in probably the previous 6 years. Usually we got 3 or 4, and all it is for staff to come back and provide more information about why they're doing what they're doing. And this year, when I said a lot more, there might have been 9. I'm not really sure. A few hiring questions, few truck questions. For example, I asked the question: they're going to buy 2.5-ton trucks, and they're having trouble with the spending, but I'm spending more than I have to. And I said to them, so are you buying a gas truck or electric truck? Because we know there's a difference in price. And I personally got the feeling he wants to buy gas. And especially with the amount of driving they do on the highways where they can't recharge. So now he's looking at hybrid trucks. That's right, hybrid gas electric. And I did ask him, did he have any trouble with the electrical trucks that they have now? And he said, not really. But I think the way they talk is with they're facing the gas costs. And the comment is that none of us know what's going to happen after January with our dollar and with fuel and the cost of everything. So I think they're kind of looking at let's just go slowly because maybe we'll have to do some different things. But anyway, the budget came out at 4%. It was 3% tax increase and 1% growth, I think, around there. So we ended up doing we're going to meet again in a couple of weeks and go over the multiple redlined issues, but I'm sure they'll pass, so they'll be finished off, so we'll have that budget passed by before Christmas. And I think that's it. We haven't really had a contentious meetings or anything that county council last little while, so.
Did you want to talk about Highway 43?
Oh, so I asked the question at So Highway 33, you know, the county's rebuilding it, and so they did from Perth to Fairway Elmsley a couple of years ago, and just like we do in Perth, the road's done, and the first lift of asphalt goes down the first year, let it settle, second year they do it. So you know, from Perth to Fairway Elmsley, they have the second level, and it's where they put we call it the bike paths, even though it's just paved shoulders. So next year we're gonna finish the second lift on Port Elmsley to Smith Falls. But I said to them, highway, right? So it's a county, we call it the county highway, and you know, it used to be Highway 43. And my comment to him was, I don't see any less transport trucks on it just because it's a county highway than it was provincial highway. And I said, we're getting hammered this year coming because of the cost of everything that we have to rebuild Cove Street, which to me is still a connecting link. And I think we should be going to the provincial government and asking him money. And he agreed, and he said the other issue they're really seeing is Highway 43 Smith Falls to Perth is the busiest highway in the county. And then the second busiest road, if you want to know, in the county is McNeely Avenue in Crown Place, which was no surprise to anybody there either. But they have the same challenges too. They've struck a government relations committee at the county. And the number one job of this committee is to go after government ministers, whether we go to run AMO good roads, like we're lining up four delegations in one night ago. And we said, we want you guys going to every delegation or come up with as many delegations as you can. And we also want to call ministers and go meet with ministers outside of conferences. And we know we're not alone. Everybody's asking for money because no one has money. So, but it's finally felt this is what we have to do. I asked the committee if we could have there's only 4 members on it, I think, right now. And it's a municipality that wasn't already on it, and the county staff felt, no, let's start this way because it's more of a higher level county thing, and then maybe over time we can bring each municipality and we can all go as a group. But it seems to be that you're chasing the money, and I think we need to make some changes here and maybe look at even professional help down the road and alleviate some of the work our staff have to do and really chase these guys down, because being election year next year might be the perfect year to start asking for money. So we got to get our foot in the gas pedal.
And did they not say that Highway 43 has the highest traffic level in the county?
It does yes, it does in the county, which is why I say that we're getting hammered with that traffic, and maybe the government could help us out with, we're building a $4 million road for their trucks to get through.
Okay, moving on. And for those who don't know, the election for the it's Toby Wando from Colin Place. Councillor Smith, can you report on the climate change panel?
Yeah, I went to the meeting, and probably the highlight of it was Grant giving a presentation on the trees in the town of Perth, and everything from the size of the trees they plant to the number of trees that are cut down in a year because of various reasons. I think it was in the neighborhood of 80 trees cut down. And that's about it for climate change.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, OPP.
So the government is finally notified us that we're going to be able to reduce the OPP board in Lanark County from 20 members down to 12. No specific date, but they will direct us to again release letters to the public in each municipality in Lanark County, seeking the individuals who would like to sit on the police services board. Staff have a template of the letter that each municipality will send out asking people who've already applied. We've had 5 people already express interest from 6 or 7 months ago, so we're really asking them if they sit on it. Then what would happen is the 8 municipal representatives will have a meeting, choose the 2 community reps, and then there'll be 2 provincial reps. And so we're hoping to have a meeting early next week to try and get that moving, because officially we have not had an official police service board meeting in a year. We've had transition board, which doesn't count. Sort of does, but it doesn't. But so I jokingly said we have to have 4 meetings in a year, so maybe we'll have 4 meetings in December, but beat the act. But anyway, so hopefully in January we've got the board up and we're on the way.
Thank you. The next is the Heritage Perth Advisory Panel. Councillor Smith or Councillor Bird?
I have something to say about the Heritage Perth Advisory Panel, and I may get my knuckles wrapped for it, but there seems to be a decline in interest in putting an agenda together. And I use as an example, there have been two canceled meetings, all in about the last 6 months because there was not enough to put on the agenda. We've also had 2 more monthly meetings. One lasted 15 minutes. The next one lasted 20 minutes. I think there needs to be some work done in discussing with Kathy and maybe the chair to try and get some more items on the agenda, either that or reduce the number of meetings to bi-monthly or quarterly. On the other hand, Kathy has got a good part of that meeting all the time when she talks about the community improvement panel. There is a lot of interest in that. There's a little bit of money left in the budget this year, and it's always an interesting short item. I don't know if Councillor Bird would agree with me on that.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. The Daru Farm Working Group, Councillor McCray and Councillor Bird.
You go ahead. Okay. I don't have really much to report because I gave a report at our last council meeting. Just that we have a meeting coming up December the 2nd, 2024. And we're basically brainstorming and looking at constructive ideas for serious consideration for Douro Farm.
Thank you. The next one is the striking committee. There is a motion. Councillor Bolt.
Just before the motion, I just want to say that at the last meeting of the striking committee, we were there primarily to discuss requests by various councillors to perhaps consider going to a different department for the balance of the term for various reasons. But when it came right down to it, there were very few. There was very little in that sense. Even myself voted that I wanted to remain connected with community services and so on. So I will ask that the motion, actually the motion came out as such. It was moved by myself and seconded by the deputy mayor, that as recommended by the striking committee, be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth approve the council appointments of the department chairs as follows. So reporting to the CAO, Mayor Brown, and meeting with the community services, myself, corporate services, Councillor Bird, development services, Councillor Waterfield, environmental services, Councillor Smith, legislative services, Deputy Mayor Ed McPherson, and protective services, Councillor Isabel Ann McCray. So that would basically leave it at status quo.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor McCray.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to say that I was one of the individuals that was hoping to try out a different service within our municipality for opportunity for growth and learning. But that's okay, because in fact, I today paid back the $675 that I had requested for first aid and CPR instruction by completing 3 first aid and CPR courses. And so those monies went back to pay for that. And now it frees that money up for me to take an additional training. And I'm very interested in moving forward with my training and learning. And in fact, Joanna Bowes sent something out very recently in regards to learning about developmental services. So I'm going to be putting some of my money for training towards that. So I'm happy with that at this point in time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I'll ask the clerk to help me out with this one, but we did find during the meeting that there's a lack of real concrete direction in the current striking committee policy about how to let people move around, that if there is a conflict of people wanting to do the same thing, there really is no language to address that. So we discussed as a community that this policy, for example, has to be worked on because there's no direction for us to do if Gary and I want the same committee, there's no way to decide who gets what. So we basically left it status quo because of this. And I think as we move forward, there has to be new language added to it to sort of say when there are conflicts, people want the same role or change something else, we have to have some kind of determine that or do something else because I don't think it was fair, not fair, but I don't think you would have been happy this time around because I know you wanted to move, but we were kind of hamstruck with the current policy. So we do realize that before this happens again, it needs to be adjusted so that everybody has a fair shake to move around.
Councillor McCray.
Well, my reason actually for, as I said before, for wanting to switch is I was a member of a fire department. I belonged to the Buckhorn Fire Department. I was a member of that fire department for a number of years. And I learned a lot from being involved with Trevor and listening to him and learning from him. I just thought that this is only my second year, completing my second year on this council, and I want to learn as much as I possibly can. And so that's why I had reached out thinking that, I might like to try environmental services or developmental services, but until we get that sorted out, I'm happy with where I am right now. And I figured out another way to make that learning happen. Thank you.
Anyone else? No, I'll call for the vote on the motion then. Those in favor? Is unanimous. If you ever vote against anything, Councillor Bird, I won't know because I can't see you.
I'll jump up.
Okay, Councillor McCray, the Leonard County Climate Action Working Group.
That's another meeting that is coming up on December the 4th. So I really don't have much to report. Everything I reported at the last meeting, there hasn't been a meeting since.
Yeah, I don't think they have very many meetings. The BIA, you're next on that one.
Yes, I just wanted to make a correction. I believe at the last council meeting, general meeting, I had said that I think it was Councillor Waterfield had asked me when John McKenty was officially finished as the chair of the BIA, and I made an error. It's actually the end of the year. As you know, they had their AGM and I reported on that at the last meeting. I just want to mention that tomorrow, of course, at 8 a.m. is their next meeting. And just so people are aware, at every meeting, I give a written report of what's happened at the general meeting. And so when I leave here, I write that report up and present it at 8 o'clock the next morning. But I wanted to mention that Once Upon a Christmas, I thought was, because I sit on the promotional committee, I thought was an incredible event. And I had the pleasure of working with Councillor Waterfield that day. And I just thought it was just a dashing success. And there was so much engagement and so many families were laughing and having fun and smiling and singing and dancing. I just thought it was, in times when are tough, it's nice to see that kind of spirit. Last year, I sponsored an event called Cupcakes, Cookies, Crafts, and Candy Canes. And this year, I had the honor of working with Montessori School. They took over a section of that, and they did an incredible job. And they have said that they're going to be involved next year. And I'm now looking for somebody who can take over the cookie baking and the cupcake baking for next year, so I can put my avenues to something else. But anyway, I don't have anything else to say in regards to the BIA, the meetings tomorrow. One thing I will say, though, is they are going to be going into strategic planning in the new year, and I'm looking forward to being involved in that.
Then, having little to say, you can move on to the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, it just goes on and on. Okay, so the last meeting was, that meeting's tomorrow as well, and that's at noon. At the last minute, they revisited and there was an evaluation of the gala. There's a discussion over small businesses and the types of education they can provide. And one of the big areas they want to start to provide education is in the area of in the construction industry, and work with Lanark Leeds Building Association. Paloma, the executive director, handed out an event calendar for 2025. And we go into our second session of strategic planning on December the 4th between 5 and 7. And James Buckley is the one leading that. And I have to say, he's just exceptional.
Thank you. Next is the library, Councillor Waterfield.
Madam Mayor, on November the 4th, I met with the Library Policy Committee, at which time we reviewed 3 policies. And just for the information of fellow councillors and the public, typically this committee goes through a number of policies in a given meeting. We update it annually. We also have a discussion if there's a need for the formation of a new policy. That was followed on November the 18th by a library board meeting. Perhaps a highlight from that was that our CEO met along with other CEOs of local Lanark libraries with MPP John Jordan. So I'm very, very pleased that there's some communication there with the provincial level. At this point, I'll go on to the RVCA. We had a RVCA board meeting on October the 24th. We reviewed our preliminary draft budget for 2025. And then moving along to the Lanark County Traffic Advisory Working Group. We had a meeting just recently, November the 20th. There was a presentation by the city of Barrie on their automated speed enforcement system, which actually was quite interesting. We also had a presentation by a representative of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus on the possibility of a joint program with the Eastern Ontario counties for a automated speed enforcement program. We also reviewed traffic calming measures in 3 areas within the county, specifically McDonald's Corners, Middleville, and Clayton. And those are my reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Could you read the motion, please?
Be resolved that the town of Perth receive the council committee, local boards, and external board reports minutes as presented.
Thank you. The seconder is Councillor Smith. Those in favor? It's carried. There's no new business. Questions from the media? No. Thank you. Next meeting date is for council is December the 10th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. So we do have a closed session tonight. Councillor McRae, you have the motion.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jim Bolt that the Council of the Town of Perth resolve itself into a closed session at 6:13 p.m. pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 SO 2001 C25 as amended. Subsection 239 for the following purpose. Number 1, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee, or B, human resource matter.
Thank you. Could we have a vote on that, please? Those in favor? It's unanimous. So asking those people who
She left at 7.
So, Councillor McCray has left. So we need a motion for council to rise and report from the closed session.
Oh, I can read that.
You're moving that?
Be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth pass bylaw number 5186, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the town of
Sorry.
Perth at its
Number
meeting.
18 before that.
For me?
Number 18.
All right. Be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth rise and report from closed session at 7:20 PM.
Okay. And my report from the closed session is one, the council approved the closed session minutes from October 22nd, 2024. And two, received a report from the CAO regarding a human resources matter.
Left the meeting at 7:16.
Okay, we need to make note of that. Okay, so we make note of the fact that Councillor McCoy left the meeting at 7:16. So we. Deputy Mayor, motion for adjournment.
Moved by myself, or, yeah, Barry Dave's gonna do his first day, yeah.
Moved by myself, seconded by councillor Waterfield, be it resolved that the council of town of Perth has passed bylaw number 5186, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the town of Perth at its meeting held November 26th, 2024.
Okay, that's seconded by Councillor Waterfield. Those in favor? Unanimous? And now you can read the motion.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bolt, resolved the council of town of Perth adjourn the meeting, council meeting tonight at 7:24 PM.